the Ottawa Convention and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Part 2, interviews with representatives of international bodies and mandates. The Convention on the Prohibition of the Use, Stockpiling, Production and Transfer of Anti-Personnel Mines and on their destruction, the Ottawa Convention, is the cornerstone of the international effort to end the casualties and injuries caused by anti-personnel mines. The Convention was adopted on the 18th of September 1997 and entered into force on the 1st of March 1999. To date, 164 states have formally agreed to be bound by the Convention. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is the first comprehensive human rights treaty of the 21st century, whose purpose is to promote, protect and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. It was adopted on the 13th of December 2006 and entered into force on the 3rd of May 2008. To date, the Convention has been ratified by 181 states. From the 25th to the 29th of November 2019, states parties, together with civil society, celebrated the Ottawa Convention's 4th Review Conference in Oslo, Norway, using the opportunity to renew their political commitment towards the implementation of the provisions of the Convention and adoption of the Oslo Action Plan, which contains a section devoted to survivors. The plan includes an action which clearly expresses that the needs and rights of mine survivors have to be effectively addressed in line with the relevant provisions of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In the framework of this conference, the Special Envoy of the UNSG on Disability and Accessibility, Ms. Maria Soledad Sistemas Reyes, interviewed landmine survivors, the President and other authorities of the conference, as well as representatives of international bodies and other organisations devoted to the survivors' assistance. The interviews give an account on the link between the Ottawa Convention, a humanitarian law instrument, and the UN CRPD, an international human rights instrument, in order to provide comprehensive and lifelong care to persons with disabilities due to landmines, applying a human rights approach. We invite you to review these interviews.
Here we are with Mr. Hans Bratskar, President of the 4th Review Conference about Ottawa Convention. And thank you very much to be here with us. And the first question is, which are your expectations about the results of the 4th conference, especially in relation to the survivors of the landmines?
Well, thank you so much. And I think at the beginning it's very important to stress that assistance to landmine victims and survivors is one of the most important pillars of the Mine Ban Convention. And it's been instrumental in recognizing the rights of landmine survivors and persons with disabilities. But we still know that many people with disabilities lack access to health services, they lack access to education and employment opportunities. So here at the review conference in Oslo, we have developed what we call the Oslo Action Plan, and that will be a step on the way to start implementing actions that will help landmine victims enjoy their rights and place in societies.
Here we are with Mr. Damien Chisano. He is a president of the Committee for the Attention of the Survivors of Landmine. Mr. Chisano, thank you to be here. And please tell to the audience how or what is the task of your committee.
We do exchange a lot with the members of the community on the rights of persons with disability. We do participate in the annual meetings, we do deliver statements, we do also exchange with the International Committee of the Red Cross, we exchange with Handicap International and the many others. partner organizations, because we think that only if we come together can we really be able to make a difference in the lives of persons with disabilities, including, of course, mine survivors. In this conference, what we're doing also is to try to see whether we can really help to come up with indicators in terms of having specific funding, to assist mine survivors. Because what we see today in terms of this convention is that the bulk of the funding, about 90% of the funding, goes to the mining. And they would not want this to continue because mine survivors, their families, and the community should not be left by their own.
We are with Tancredo Francesi. He will be the next chairperson of the Committee for the Assistance to the Victims of Landmine. And please tell us your perspective in relation to your work as a chairperson for 2020 year.
This is a very important sector of our activities. Victim assistance in the framework of the Conventions on the Ban of Landmines is a pillar of our action. If we want to work for a free mine world, we need to take into consideration also the victims and the survivors. This is the work of our committee, and this is why Italy has decided to reaffirm its commitment. And it's very important that during this RevConf, we are drafting an action plan with some indicators which will lead our work during the next 5 years.
We are with Agnes Marcayu. She works in United Nations. And Agnes, tell us about your specific agency in United Nations and your position on it.
Thank you for having me. I'm the director of the United Nations Mine Action Service. This is the UN entity which coordinates all the actions related to the explosive weapons, explosive ordnance that are used in conflicts or after conflicts.
Here we are with Mr. Dag Inge Ulstein, Minister of International Development of Norway. And I would like to ask to you, what is the meaning to Norway to be the host of the 4th review conference about Ottawa Convention?
Thank you so much, Maria, and it's really good to have you here. It's such an honor, and your engagement and dedication when it comes to this field, and for me to learn from you and your work. To have the convention here is part of a long-term relationship and engagement that Norway has had for many years. And from the early beginning, it was so obvious and the absolute necessity to ban mines and later on cluster munitions. I think the consequences are so totally unacceptable. It robs girls and boys, women and men of their potential, of their future, of their dreams, and what they could be. So there are many good reasons why this is important for the Norwegian government and for me as the Minister of International Development.
Frank Mason, he is from Europe Union. And Frank, tell us about your position in Europe Union.
Okay, thank you, Maria Soledad. I work in the External Action Service, that is in fact the diplomatic service of the European Union. And I work in the division on arms control, disarmament, non-proliferation, where I deal with conventional arms, including the Mine Ban Convention.
We are with Prince Miret of Jordan. He is a special envoy of the Ottawa Convention. On what is your role as a special envoy of Ottawa Convention?
It is a great honor, a great privilege to promote the aims of the convention, to visit the countries around the world, mostly of course countries that are not party to the convention, to try to convince them to join the convention, so to universalize the Ottawa Treaty. So I visited 2 countries that are members of the Ottawa Convention, Ecuador and Peru, a few years ago, and I met with the president of Ecuador and with the president of Peru and had very good meetings with them to convince both Peru and Ecuador to do more in demining and to clear their minefields. So
Here with Hector Guerra. And Hector, tell us, what is your organization and your position in this body?
My organization is the International Campaign to Ban Landmines and Cluster Munition Coalition, ICBL CMC, and I'm the director of this organization. We work for World Free from Landmines, and we've done so for several years, since 1992. And we're a global movement of non-governmental organizations from all over the world, including landmine and cluster munition survivors. And we've played an important role for the creation, development, and promotion and defense of the Mine Ban Treaty and the Convention on Cluster Munitions.
Here is Juan Carlos Ruan. Please tell us, what is your position in the organization that you work?
Maria Soledad, thank you very much for the question and for being here with us at the review conference. I am the director of the Implementation Support Unit of the Anti-Personnel Landmine Convention.
What is the principal work of your unit?
The principal work of my unit is to support the machinery of the convention, which is made up of the president of the convention, which is Norway at the moment, and the committees of the convention, which look at thematic areas such as mine clearance, victim assistance, compliance with the convention, and cooperation and assistance. So we support all the different committees, we support the president, and we support the states parties in implementing their obligations and understanding their commitments and obligations under the convention, as well as supporting the meetings of the convention.
Do you see a connection between the Ottawa Convention and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities of the United Nations in relation to the attention of the survivors of landmine?
Yes, there is a very tight connection. The Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities is about all people with disabilities. It's the big framework. What our job is about, our commitment is to make sure that the specific needs, requirements of people victims of landmines and other explosive devices are not ignored.
There is, by definition, because in fact the Mine Ban Convention is not a pure disarmament convention, because it has an article on victim assistance. So the assistance to mine survivors is a treaty obligation of the convention.
I think that the connection between these two important legal instruments are the people. At the center of our work, we have people which survived an incident, or in the specific case, something related with landmines. And the people are at the core of our assistance. It's important to have the same focus in order to provide to the people the better assistance we can. And for sure, the conventions on the rights of people with disabilities is a very important instrument. It's a pillar of this kind of activities. And we would like to find every possibility to integrate our efforts.
I want to remind the states parties here in Oslo this week that the job is not finished when they have done some demining. The assistance to a victim of explosions, the assistance stops when the person dies.
And we would like to have your message to the survivors of landmines and their families.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's important that the victims know that they are not alone on this. We are together working for a better path, a better future for everybody. It's all concept of development which has to put the people, the affected people, the people with disability at the center of our action.
You are human beings. You do not have your rights reduced because you have a disability. That's why we are fighting for you to get access to assistive technology that will enable you to participate into society on equal footing as other members of the community. So this is our strong message. Don't despair. We know that you do not have any problem with your disability. The problem is discrimination.
Think about increasing the skills that you're able to attain, education, if you can carry on with your education, look for a job because you're able to do the job, don't be hired because of your disability, be hired because of your qualifications. That is important, and keep your head up and keep your spirits high.
For me, I would like to underline that the support for the survivors and others with disabilities is, as we also talked a lot about, it's not about special needs and special rights for those who are affected. It's about enjoying the same rights that we all are entitled to. It's not a question of people with disabilities having different needs than others. It's precisely because we all have the same needs. It's about education, health, safety, care, and inclusion that we must increase our efforts. So again, I think that's the words we are using, and also to have this kind of right mindset when it comes to rights and equality. That would probably be my main message.
Especially in the development countries, in countries, in poor countries, and in remote areas that live, I can imagine, in extremely difficult circumstances, in countries without, real proper health care. I think the fate of persons with disabilities in such countries is really very difficult. So I think it's very important to, also in the context of Leave No One Behind and the Sustainable Development Goals, that we reach out to those persons and that we show them that, they are not forgotten.
United Nations and Maria Soledad here, we are working together to make sure that your countries, your communities, your families will include you as they would with anybody else. You don't feel disabled, and I don't see you as disabled, but we want them to see you as people, respect you, and you have a right to dignity and a right to live your life like others people do.